Welcome to Tunacheki's Africa True Story. Colonialism and the scramble of Africa has lasted for generations. During this time, colonial governments destroyed and plundered Africa and African culture in all manners of ways. And that begs the question, what if Africa was never colonized? Africa is a large continent with tons of valuable resources required to boost the manufacturing sector. With control over 30% of Earth's remaining mineral resources, a stable government to control all these resources, Africa would have been the factory of the world rather than the role taken by China today. This would have elevated the continent to superpower status as it has done for China. If Africa was never colonized, it would have stayed neutral during the two world wars, which economically devastated and toppled other world powers. This is because Africa would have had no masters to fight for as it had to do. The benefits of neutrality during these two world wars would have been the same as it was for Switzerland today. Africa would have been the best place to invest and hide wealth during these two devastating world wars. The United Nations is the world's umbrella organization which seeks to promote world peace and cooperation. Today, the African group in the United Nations consists of 54 member states, that is, 28% of the United Nations, and thus the largest region in the UN. If colonization never happened, all these states would have had one voice, more influence, and a permanent seat at the Security Council, which is only reserved for world powers. If Africa was never colonized, it would have had friends instead of masters. With this popular support globally, and most of the powers like China, Russia, and India being close allies, Africa would have surely rivaled Europe and America in the global arena. Africa's trade and economy would have flourished during the times of the world wars. During both the First and the Second World War, Africa would have emerged as a major manufacturing center, and its exports to deficient European countries would have been boosted. As a result, Africa would have never declined but continued to extend to other parts of the world. With the scramble of Africa never happening, African states would have been more politically and economically stable. This will in turn result in the formation of an African Union of states, not like the one in the United States where they lost all individuality and sovereignty, but like in the EU where states retained sovereignty. African people were captured and transported to the Americas and Europe for free forced labor. All European colonial economies and the Americas were dependent on the enslavement of Africans for free labor. With this not happening, all of Africa's manpower would have stayed at home to develop the continent, while the Americas and Europe stagnated. Without Africa providing free labor to the world, that basically made other world powers what they are today, Africa would have further established its role as a world power. If Africa was never colonized, had good governance and control over all its resources, it would have led to a great economic stability throughout the continent. Economic stability in Africa would have created the right environment for world domination. This is largely because stability creates certainty and confidence, and this encourages investment in technology and human capital. With almost unlimited resources, a billion-strong population, economic stability, and united governments, Africa would have eventually had one of the strongest defense forces in the world. With Africa not being part of the world wars and avoiding any major conflicts like the Cold Wars, Africa's role as a world peacekeeper would have been established. This would have further solidified its role as a world power. Africa is a center for culture and heritage worldwide. Fortunately for Africa, this is true today, regardless if you were ever colonized or not. Africa is a cradle of humanity and the birthplace of all humans living on this planet today, and no one can steal that from Africa. Africa is today a superpower when it comes to culture and identity. We created vast empires before the rest of the world even came out of their caves. Africa and Africans paved way for the rest of humanity, and that makes us the original superpower. Remember to subscribe and ring the notification icon so you don't miss any of our African videos. And remember to leave your suggestions of topics to cover in the comments below.